Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. How are you? Hi, Anjali. Anjali, can you hear me? Am I audible? Vaibhav, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay. Anjali is on mute. Hi, Anjali. Where is she? Hi, Anjali, can you hear me? Vaibhav? Vaibhav?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah, I'm audible, but last session I completed clause 6, no?
Yes, sir, you have completed the classic.
And now I need to discuss on clause 7 and clause 8.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Oh, we'll wait for another 5-10 minutes and see. Because I mean, clause 7 is important, but more important is clause 8. Okay. Hi, Madhu.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. I mean, as I chatted, I mean, I written in the WhatsApp text that you performed pretty well. I was really shocked, like uh, how you have done
Thank you,
that.
sir.
I mean, as I mentioned, I like the terminology and the vocabulary you used.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you always say thanks, uh, but I was shocked. Like starting, you said I don't know anything about this, and when I was seeing the assignment, I mean, you have written it like an expert. Maybe you are like a ghost in the house. You don't want to show your skills to others. What happened to Anjali? She's joining and leaving.
Actually, I'm traveling, sir, so I couldn't able to hear properly.
Yeah, I'll compliment you at the end of the session. You travel safely, go home. Okay.
Yeah, yes, sir. Thank
How far are you from your home?
you. Sir, I'm heading back to my hometown today, so it
Achha,
may take 1 hour. So,
okay, fine. I mean, keep your earphones and listen to me.
yes, sir.
Okay, I won't ask any questions. Yeah, should we wait? Yeah, I was waiting for Majid. To join because as I said, no, clause 7 is important, but clause 8 is the crux. Okay, I would feel whoever is an expert on clause 8 can also, I mean, it's more linked to regulatory also, and hence we need to understand it better. Yeah, Anjali said she'll join today. Some issue with her network. Yeah, Majid, can you tell me what are the 6 clause we discussed? Starting from clause 1. Majid, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Hi. Um,
Can you
so
tell?
clause one is generally scope, and clause two is normative references. Uh, the terms and definition. Four is quality management system, which is the main important part where we discuss about. So 4.1 basically I guess is journal requirements, which covers about process approach and outsource process control, documented procedure, risk-based thinking, um, validation of softwares which are employed in QMS, stuff like that. Um, 4.2 I guess documentation requirement.
Yeah.
Uh, you mentioned that most of the NCs, 30 to 40% are from particularly from uh, this clause, and this 4.2 has also sub clause 4.21 general documentation, 4.22 I guess a medical device file, or 4.22 is medical device file, or 4.323 is medical device file. Then one is control of documents and control of records, I guess. These two are also extremely important.
Yeah.
Fifth one is management responsibility. That also has certain subsections, 5.1 to 5.5, which includes management commitment, customer focus, quality policy, which again is extremely important, planning, which also has two subclause, quality objective and QMS planning. 5.5 is authority and communication. I'm not able to recall that stuff. 5.5
Compliance is management representative.
responsibility, authority and communication, I guess. And
What is 5.6? 5.6?
5.6 is management review, sir.
Yeah. Good.
Six,
Six.
six is resource management with two subclause, provision of resources and human resources, which include competence trainings and awareness. 6.3 is infrastructure, and 6.4 is work environment and contamination control.
6 has 3 subclause. One is general requirements. The second is human resources. The other is infrastructure. The other is work environment and contamination control.
Yes, sir.
Okay, 6. So next we'll be going with clause 7.
Product realization.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. Product realization is very important. Like I said, it contains two important things. One is design and development. Okay. That is clause 7.3. And clause 7.4 is purchasing. So these are very important subclause in clause 7. So actually we have a separate section on design and development. However, I'll give an overall bird's eye view picture of what this design and development is and what are important aspects or controls in design and development. However, we'll discuss purchasing in details. Okay. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
So clause 7 is, I said, like, during our first sessions, I said like clause 7 is the real, important thing that will be happening, okay, in the organization. Okay, before that I said like clause 1 is more like the preview of the movie. It gives scope. And clause 2, 3 are normative references, definition. That's like the titles of the movie. Clause 4 talks about more of the documentation procedure, rules and regulations, how to do the device, medical device file. Clause 5 is like more a management who is like the producer or the director who has to manage the show in the organization. Okay, and clause 6 is also linked to clause 5 in the terms of providing the resources for the organization. Okay, it could be like human resources, infrastructure, okay, also some infrastructure on work environment and contamination control. So 5 and 6, 6 is also a part of management responsibility. Of course, clause 5 is totally linked to that. And in clause 5, we find two important things. One is management review meetings, MRM. which has to, I mean, provide a lot of inputs, okay, to the QMS as such. Okay, we take a lot of inputs from the management reviews. Okay, I'll tell you, I mean, I think I have told you sometime back, there will be a lot of subclause in the QMS where it will give us inputs. Okay, I mean, to look at what we can do for an effective QMS, right? Like the internal audits, the PMS, COPO, complaints, vigilance. Okay. And in this will be why I said this is the heart. I mean, this is the real story of the movie, which there will be a lot of drama, action, sentiment, suspense, thriller like. Okay, it could be a thriller for some of those. So it's a real, why I'm saying is here it is a real production that will be happening. Okay, production planning. I mean, overall we'll be looking at product realization, but in the process of, I mean, this is one clause which has a lot of subclause. Okay, and each subclause talks a lot of things from, okay, production planning. Actually, there are like production requirements. Okay, and then you have most important thing, purchasing. In that you have some subclause. 7.4 is purchasing, I mean 7.3 is design and development. That is very important. It has 8 subclause. Okay, 7.4 is purchasing. 7.5 and 7.6 are basically managing and monitoring of the devices. I mean, measuring and monitoring devices, controls on them. Okay. And this is very important. Like you need to, as I told, in every clause, whichever clause you look at, okay, look at clause 4.1 or 5.1 or 6.1 or even 7.1, and further if you travel into 8.1 also. Okay, what you'll be seeing is like all of this first subclause of every clause will be talking on planning. Okay, you can cross check planning on your documentation, planning of the management, management requirements, planning on that. And even clause 7.1, even 6.1 talks of the management, human resource management or infrastructure management. Like it will be talking more on the planning part of it. And 7.1 also similarly tells you about planning. So what I want to make you understand is for any activity, okay, any activity in all these clauses which we are discussing, okay, clause, whether it is there in the clause or not, but for everything, planning is very, very important. Okay, if you look at the management responsibility, you need to do a perfect planning, because we don't execute or we don't do anything without planning. Suppose as we discuss about product realization, okay, planning of product realization and risk management. The important thing is we need to have, okay, planning for product realization, which means that you should have a documented process. Okay, you should have a documented process, and the documented, documented process for the product realization, starting from your, okay, whether it's production or it's purchasing or it's design development, anything, you should have a planning. So the crux here is like, I will tell you a very practical approach. Suppose you're planning for your production. Okay, what are the things you work on? Say in general practice, okay, if you are in an organization, you have a production planning. So what are the, what are the contents or what are the things which basically look in production planning? Okay, what are the things you look in production planning? First, we'll look at, say, I'm planning some, for a shift, I'm planning 100 devices to be produced or manufactured. First, what we look at, what is the most important thing when you're doing a production planning?
Device
Okay,
master plan.
yeah, we'll talk with the stores guy and say, I want this much of material, this material, XYZ material. And secondly, we'll mention, I want this quantities of that material. And what is the third thing we'll tell us? Whether the purchase quantities are verified, okay, verification is done and they have been tested and approved by QC. Okay, it's not just because they are available in the store, raw material, you will pick it. You need to ask whether this is QC approved material or not. Okay, first thing is whether the material is available or not, and it is QC approved material or not, and the amount of the quantity what you required for producing 100 devices is available or not. Okay. Then after looking at the materials, then you look at your machinery, whether all the machinery is functioning. Okay. If it is functioning, is it validated or in the schedule of validation, or you should I do revalidation? If it is validated, I can proceed with the process, the production process. Of course, you'll have a lot of machinery. You need to cross check, or they validated, already validated. Then you need to have a process like any contingency plans. If there is a breakup, okay, break in your production, what is the plan B? Do I have spares to replace immediately? Because once there is a stoppage or breakdown in production, it will affect your product delivery. Device delivery will be delayed to the market. So you need to have a plan B, a contingency insurance plan that do I have the space? Is the maintenance ready? Maintenance guys readily available? To immediately work on it, repair it, and make it available for me so that within the timelines I can produce 100 numbers. Okay. And the third thing what you look is at your manpower. Do I have manpower? Okay, whether it's involved in components, okay, whether the components are available or my manpower is available to manufacture 100 pieces, or it could be any number, 200 pieces or 500 pieces of devices, 100 numbers or 200 numbers of devices. Do I have the manpower? Okay. If the manpower is available, you need to cross check, are they all available for next 8 hours or somebody will leave? If somebody leaves, do I have some additional persons? And you also need to look, all of them have been trained in the process for almost 6 to 8 months. Okay, and then you need to look at online QC. But because when the production is happening, there will be definitely online QC to pick up a few samples to see in online whether the process is going well. Not at the finished QC when you say after manufacturing 100 products, you say that there is something wrong in the process. Okay, online QC provides you the immediate process update, the process is going well or not. Okay, then you need to look at the finished QC or the final testing mechanisms, whether all personnel are available or not. Okay, to check the QC process. Finished specifications of the product. And most importantly, you should have all the device specifications or formats or records which need to be filled. Okay, production logs, process logs, QC formats. Okay, that has to be filled in. So you are overall looking at your material, machinery, manpower, documentation, SOPs, records, whether all are available, and what is the timeline, how to produce this many products. Okay, and you are also looking at some backup if something goes wrong, if there is power off, if there is machine breakdown. Okay, so this is what we call planning. So you plan it one day before you execute it on the next day or subsequent days. You will have a production plan. Okay. Without planning, we won't execute anything. Suppose I'm talking of production planning, then I'll talk of, like you're having R&D, that's clause 7.3, which says that design and development planning. So I need to look at how I'm planning my design and development. First thing, do you have all the drawings? Actually, the foremost important thing, which device the management asks me, to develop. Do I have the design drawings? Okay, do I have the personnel and what responsibilities each personnel have? Okay, do I have all the material for this? Okay, and what are my scheduled timelines for that? It's not like production, you produce that in a day or two. R&D takes 1 year or 2 years. Do you have a total schedule for all your, do you have your inputs? Okay, do you have your outputs? Do you have everything available for verification and validation, including machinery, manpower? Okay, and do you have process of clinical validation, sterilization validation, packing validations, including working on your stability studies? Okay, then after doing all this, what is the procedure process for me to have the design transfer to production? Okay, you'll have timelines and sequence of events that happens, and it has to be documented. This is what we mean planning of it. Okay, without planning, don't jump directly into the activity. Don't jump into the production, don't jump into the R&D because people are pushing you. Always marketing people will come back and say, I want this immediately. Tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, I have to deliver. Please do it tonight. There will be a lot of pressure on production to deliver it. Because there is a lot of pressure on you, what happens is, in the fist of frustration or in the pressure, there is every chance that you keep doing mistakes because you haven't planned properly. Okay, there will be some personnel missing, there will be some material that is not sufficient, and you get irritated and you do the process. There will be a lot of rejection rates. Okay, suppose your rejection rate is 5%. Okay, out of every 100, okay, you have 5% rejections. Suppose I want to produce 100. The marketing team wants 100 devices. Okay, how many you will produce? If your rejection is 5%, how many you will produce?
95.
No. If your rejection rate is 5% and your target, productivity or devices are 100. See, you will produce
105.
105 because anyway, on an average, you feel like 5% will 5 devices will be rejected. So what you plan is you'll do 5 more extra, so that if you do 5 more and you need 100, so the 5 will be rejected and you'll reach your target of 100. Okay, suppose the rejection rate is high, then planning will be more. So based on that, you need to have a calculation how many I'm going to do. Okay, if there is online QC, how much time and including the timelines, all that is what we call planning of production. In a real practical approach, every company has to do. But I do understand many companies don't do this. Okay, they don't have a production plan. Okay, they don't have a production plan, nothing, they jump into it, and at the end of production, they will be in a, I mean, ambiguity, they will be in a full of confusion. Should I go for sterilization? Should stop sterilization? Because their sterilization capacity is 1,000 and I have only 100. If I sterilize, I'll be losing a lot of, I mean, based on the sterilization, I'll be losing a lot of ethylene oxide, or there will be a lot of wastage of radiation if it is gamma radiation. Okay, you need to sterilize to your full capacity. If you do it for half your capacity, one third your capacity, there will be some, okay, loss of what you call upgrading of your capacity to full, and that it will obviously incur in your indirect what you call indirect loss of your product value. Okay, this is what basically is production planning, and as I said, it could be in product realization, I mean in R&D, design and development, you need to do this, production you need to do this, even purchasing also you need, even purchasing you need to be more careful. Like which materials we are purchasing, what is the specification of material, we need to early finalize. Okay, and if the materials are very critical, okay, for the product, you need to be still careful, and you need to, before going for purchasing, you need to do a lot of evaluation of the suppliers. Okay, you should audit the suppliers. Physical audit is better. Okay, if it is outside our country, then we can give, if we outside our company also, if it is a first purchase, you should do a physical audit. If the purchase, if the supplier is Germany or somewhere in France, okay, before purchase, it's important that you spend money and do the audit of the supplier. Okay, I'll discuss a lot on that. There will be supplier agreements. Okay, you need to pick up first the samples from the suppliers, not buy everything from the supplier. Get the samples from the suppliers, 2, 3 suppliers. Okay, get them checked or verify their products or the raw materials. It could be equipment, or it could be machinery, or it could be raw material. Okay, you need to do the audit, see that it is as per your specification. Okay, and also importantly, once you finalize the supplier, you also have to have supplier agreements and all that. But here, my main focus is on every activity which you are doing. You should have a proper planning. Don't start anything. Okay, you need to plan ahead a day or 2 days before, that this is the activity I will be doing. Do I have all the resources, okay, to successfully complete what you have planned? Okay, if you have not done that, then at some point, I'm pretty sure there will be something which goes wrong. Okay, I'm practically telling this. Uh, you should not leave it to, okay, to somebody or to hands of God that everything goes well, and pray to God that everything goes well. Yes, you can pray to God that everything goes well, but human efforts are very important to make that happen. So planning is very important. Okay. What, see, the core concept here is the organization must plan the necessary processes. I told you before only, when you have SOPs which are perfectly documented. Our SOPs are properly done. Okay, these SOPs further will become the processes. Because of the SOPs or the procedures only, we'll convert them into a process. Could be a production process, R&D, sterilization, packing process. Everything will have a planning. Everything will have an SOP. It's documented and pretty well documented that in your SOP you have not missed anything. Okay, so before you start your process, review your SOP and ask your colleagues or your team to review the SOP. Have you missed anything? Is the SOP perfect? Any material or aspect? I mean, have you overlooked something? Okay, has to be taken into consideration. Then you plan your activity. Because I said every procedure will turn into a process. Okay, that process will turn into a device or a component or something. And that component or device or something should be within your specifications. Okay, what we call acceptable specifications or acceptance criteria. If they are under acceptance criteria, then your QC team or head of QC will accept them. Of course, there will be some non-conformities or rejections. Okay. What you will do with rejections or non-conformities if they are there? How many of you are there in manufacturing? Actually, there are very few who attended today. I think Madhusri was traveling. She left, I think. But anyway, recording will be there. What?
I'm hearing, sir. I'm listening.
Yeah, great. No, you are not. I mean, I didn't see you in the list. I'm sorry.
Not a manufacturer, sir. Yes.
You are not a manufacturer. I know it. I know your job profile. Actually, I mean, I have written a different job profile for you also. How you can actually, I reviewed your CV and I have redesigned your CV. Okay, for better job opportunities or for better promotions in your company. Okay, but you gave you an old CV, not an updated one. The old CV was in Plasma Gen or somewhere.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but you are in Intuitive. So I added that also and modified your CV. I'll tell you later what I'll do with that. So I mean, here, those who are in production, where am I? What I'm talking? Yeah, what you will do with the rejected samples? Okay, the best easiest answer is that all non-conformities as per ISO 13485, you need to segregate them, separate them, okay, and keep it in an isolated location so that they won't mix up with the conformities or the products which are compliant and pass the QC test, so there won't be any intermixing. I'll tell you what will be the problem if they mix together. So it has to be segregated, separated, or what we call quarantine. Okay, we heard this word quarantine more during COVID time. What you mean by quarantine? In COVID, most of us were in quarantine.
Isolation.
So we need to isolate. In the sense, why we need to isolate them is that there won't be any cross mixing or mixing of those with the conformed products or good devices. I mean, good products. Okay, if they mix with, I mean, that will come in clause 8. What we have to do with non-conforming products, if they mix up with the conforming products, it will be a big disaster. Okay. But the easiest answer is that which most people will give. But for you being in advanced master classes, It's not a question of segregating them and keeping it in quarantine in isolation. It is more a manual clerical job. Okay, you give a red red tag to it. Okay, write with red pen that this is non-conformities and isolate. You to be and more, have more utility of you to be seen very prominently in your organization. Okay, to be a face among your team. Okay, not one in the team. You need to look into how many rejections, what are the rejection percentage, one. The other is what is the last batch rejection percentage? Last batch, how many were the rejection? And compared to last batch, this batch rejection percentage increased or decreased? Okay, that's point one. This point two is if it has increased, you need to do a spade work or dig into this. Why the rejection increased? Okay, and you need to also understand, do some common sense work on root cause analysis, like on which parameters these samples were rejected. Okay, you will have something like 8 to 10 parameters which you do the QC checks, online checks, other checks. Okay, it's not that on all parameters or all specifications the device will be rejected. Okay, the device will be rejected because it is not meeting some of the specifications, could be 2 or 3. What we basically call them as OOS. What is OOS?
Out of specification.
Yeah. Yeah, Akanksha, I forgot you. I thought you are still immersed in your 510K file on more specs. Yeah, it is out of specification. We call it as OS in our QC language, sorry, QMS language. And there is other word also called OOT. What is OOT? OS is out of specification. What is OOT?
Out of tolerance.
Out of tolerances, yeah. Because these are same. Okay, out of tolerances means we fix a limit. Like say, if 7 is my mean or average of a diameter or a weight or something, some parameter, I'll give it tolerance or deviation, what we call, basically we call it as standard deviation. Okay, plus or minus 7 plus or minus 5. So what will be your range? It will be 6.5 to 7.5, right? So whatever is coming between 7.5, between 7.5 to 6.5, you will accept them because they are under your specification. Which is outside your specification, we'll reject them. We call them as out of specification. But what I'm mainly, impressing on you or imprinting on your brain is you need to look in the root cause why it has rejected. As I said, it could be 2-3 parameters, it could have been rejected. Okay. Then don't leave there. The third point is how many of them, suppose there are 50 samples that are rejected. How many samples, okay, have been rejected on these two parameters? Okay, these two parameters were out of specification. Out of 50, how many were rejected? If the maximum out of 50, 40 are rejected because of the out of specification in these two parameters, then this is something you need to think of. Okay, you are an not just a shop floor guy. You are more thoughtful logic and looking at a more meaningful advanced scenario. Okay, if 40% of them are rejected, or say I say 50, out of 50, 40 are rejected, means it's almost like 80% are rejected because of they are out of specification because of two parameters. I mean, two parameters are out of specification. Okay, then you need to understand this, what is causing this two parameters to go out of specification. Is there an issue with the process? Okay, is there is an issue with the measuring equipment? Is it calibrated? Is the process, is it process tight enough or validated? Okay, and okay, you have done this for this batch, that this has happened, but the best thing anyone with some common sense intellect will do is he will pick up all the rejection reports of last 10 batches. Okay, what could be the percentage rejections? I'll tell you one important thing. Then you look at the rejections, it could be 5-10%, but there also you need to look at what are the parameters for which they are rejected. Okay, is there different parameters that have been led them to rejection or out of specification? Are the same parameters which you have seen in the batch that are also, I mean, linked to those rejections in the last 10 batches? Then you would have come to a very, I mean, you have caught an important point. Most of the rejections, okay, 80% of the rejections since last 10 batches are happening because of these two parameters, and absolutely there is something wrong with the process. Okay, then you can keep monitoring them for next two batches, incoming batches. And if this trend continues, because of these two parameters, there are rejections that are happening. Then you have to take an corrective action, not necessarily, I would better say a preventive action. Okay, how to stop these rejections because of these two parameters not meeting the specification, whether you'll change the process or adjust the process or you revalidate. Because guys, I am telling you, I have done, okay, a meticulous analysis on the rejection rates. Okay, suppose I say 5% rejection rates are happening. Suppose in an year, I produce 10,000 pieces. Okay, what is 5% of 10,000? How many pieces? What is 5% of 10,000?
500.
500.
Yeah, Arulmati now came to conscious. What time is it there, Arulmati, in Canada?
It's 8:45 here, sir, morning.
Okay. I know you will be shivering. It's
Pardon,
too
sir?
cold. It's too cold in Toronto, no?
Yeah, yes, sir. It's now -3.
You'll be with room warmer or heaters.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, good. Even at that temperature, you give the right number. Your total rejections will be 500 pieces. Sorry, yeah, 500 pieces. And you divide them, sorry, not divide, multiply them with the cost of the product. Okay, think the cost of the product is 5,000, or it could be more, 10,000. Okay, 10 into 5,000 pieces, how much it will be? Okay, it could be something like you are running in 50 lakh rupees, which are lost because of the rejections. See how much business loss you are creating this because of rejections. Okay, the company will look into this angle, not the whole company, the management will into that angle, why these rejections are happening, and this is costing the company 50 lakhs per year, which could have been used for other resources. Many of you won't think of it. Of course, I mean, when I am an employee of another company, I never thought of this. because I have become a CEO of the company, I mean, my own company on salvation, I also look at the business angle, how much loss it is causing. Okay, any loss is a loss. So as you do, and you can be a QA head or QC head, somebody there. What you need to do is, I mean, do this, just project to the management that this many are rejected, okay, in a year, and multiply them with the unit cost of each device and show to the management this is coming to 50 lakhs. Okay. Actually, when you to the management, when you show them in money, in the terms of money, they will get surprised. They will be obviously surprised. But when you tell to them in the terms of devices or 500 are rejected, they don't take it seriously. But when you convert them in the terms of money, they will take it seriously. That's the mindset of the management. I know it. Okay, then you work out a kappa or corrective action where you decrease the rejection because you have two parameters that are running out. Bring down the rejections because of these two parameters to 1% or so. Okay, the management will really appreciate you. Then you will have some credibility that not only you brought down the rejection rate, but you have helped the company to save some money. Okay, and you keep this pattern, I mean, collect the data of all the batches that have happened annually. Okay, look at the pattern of the rejections. What we call them as trend analysis. Okay, analysis of data, which will come in clause 8.4, I think in 8.4. See, it's great to have data. Okay, you can have tons and tons of data stored in your almaras and your record keeping rooms. But it is foolish not to use the data for analysis. Okay, to see the pattern, trend analysis or the pattern of it, study the data and use it, okay, for the improvements. No, you're not, I mean, doing something, it's not a big workload. Like you already have the data from your department, your production department or your QC departments will have the data. Just enter the data in Excel and create an XY scattered graph or XY linear regression graph and see what are the trends that are happening. Just do a bar graph, very simple. See which one is contributing for which parameter is contributing for more rejections. What are the top 3 rejections? Okay. And this is how you need to look at the data from the production, and this should be a part of your production planning. Are you getting my point? See, doing production, getting devices, doing documentation, recording it looks more a routine work like. But do something interesting, working on the rejections and the pattern of rejection, create a trend analysis like how the rejections are happening. And the second thing is, if the rejections are low, see, you think that sometimes the rejections were 10%, but the rejections suddenly dropped to 1%. So the rejections as such won't drop to 1%. It's not a miracle. It's not that hand of God is there on you, or it's a good day, you went to temple, prayed, okay. It is Thursday, so it's a very good day. It happened. Our rejections dropped to 1%. In science, scientifically, it won't happen. Okay. Hand of God won't be there on your production, or it's not a good day or bad day. If it happens, if your rejection drop to 1%, what I am telling is this is very crucial. Many people overlook and be very happy that it is only 1% and have a party or celebrate. But that is not should be your objective. It's good that it dropped 1%, be happy. But the point is, you need to also investigate how it dropped from 10 to 1%. Okay, what are the reasons why it dropped from 10% to 1%? It also gives some information. Okay, what are the parameters that were used? How was the QC check? Okay, how was the material used? And why it came to 1%? If it came to 1%, can't we use the same processes what we have done this batch? Okay, same thing, replicate in all 10 batches so that you can get only 1% rejection. Okay, that is also a learning process. See, if the rejection rate is high, you look into that for at a positive aspect of how to decrease it. If you have less rejection, 1%, you also look into that aspect. It's a very positive aspect. And you look into it how to continue the same for next 10 batches so that the rejection will be less. Okay, whether it's higher or lower, you have to take maximum advantage of the data. We should not cry when it is high, or we should not be overjoyed when it is rejection is low. Okay, you need to look more pragmatically into the data and see how this can be progressed. This is what we call trend analysis. It is a part of QMS which no company will follow except some MNCs like that of Mothershri company like Intuitive, they will have it. But most of the Indian companies don't follow this kind of trend analysis. Okay, the other trend, I'm talking about the trend analysis that is happening within the organization. There will be one trend analysis that happens outside the organization which you need to look in is the pattern of complaints. Okay, like your non-conformities or rejections, what you're having here, you will be having complaints. Okay, of course, complaints you will categorize which are seriously adverse events, okay, something like field safety corrective actions, okay, non-serious. Non-serious is something like damage in packing or labeling is not good. Okay, but it's not looking beautiful or not aesthetic. But you will also have something like very serious adverse event. But your point is you collect all like an year data of complaints, or if you have a record last 2-3 years data of the complaints, okay, anyway, you'll have a complaint log. You look at, okay, what are the complaints? You do accumulate all them and categorize your complaints and see which complaints are more. Okay. Because you understand, I mean, you know the root cause, I mean, you know the cause of the complaint. You'll also understand, suppose a complaint that is, okay, repetitively occurring. There is a reoccurrence of the same complaint again and again. Okay, maybe you have done a CAPA. Okay, you have done corrective and preventive action. You have done the effectiveness, verification of effectiveness, but still there is a reoccurrence of the event or the complaint. Then there is something wrong with your CAPA, or you have not done the CAPA properly, or you have not analyzed, looked at the, not done the root cause analysis or done the investigation right. Okay, but leave it aside. But you have also a trend analysis where you got a trend of complaints. Okay, like in some batches this complaint is more, in some batches there is other complaint more, and on an average you will find cumulatively when you sum it off, you find top 3 complaints more. You have top 3 where the complaints are more. Okay, it could be because Okay, it could be any complaint. I don't want to categorize the complaint, but I told the general category of complaints like serious, uh, I mean very serious adverse events or non-serious FSCs like. But when you look at the product, okay, you can understand where the complaint that is happening with the product. Then you do a perfect root cause analysis, Pakka root cause analysis, and do kappa for it. And you try to reduce the complaint ratio, okay, because of the parameters. Okay, and this is how you can work more, I mean, logically, analytically in addressing your trend analysis within the company and outside the company when the product goes out. Okay, if it is like a medical equipment, you can also look at the trend patterns like every time that guy calls from the hospital that my machine is not running better, like you need to attend a lot of service activities. Okay. Every week there is a service activity on the machine. Then you log it and say that there are increasing service activities that are happening with my product. What is going wrong? Or there will be some activities where you need to change the parts of the machine. It could be a diagnostic machine, a diagnostic equipment, or it could be equipment in surgical, or it could be equipment used in general production. Okay, if there is too much of service activities and maintenance calls and too much of, I mean, change of spare parts, you make it a trend analysis. How many times it's happening, gather the data. Okay, first is you understand and make a report of it. Then discuss with your team, with the management and say this is how it's looking. There should be something done to reduce it. Okay, and this is what has to be included in your planning. And why I'm saying this is, okay, ISO 13485, which is going to revamp and there will be new amendments that are going to add in 2026, will have this trend analysis as a separate clause, okay, in ISO 13485. Okay, there is a clause on data analysis, that is fine. After doing data analysis, what will you do is improvements. But for that, you need to have a trend analysis, collect a lot of data, whether it's PMS data, what we collect after customer feedbacks, complaint data, all this data, what we call copper or some registries, PNCF registries, okay, or what we call PSU or periodic safety update reports. These all are post-marketing PMS data which you need to combine. Okay, when I come to EUMDR, I tell you that you need to submit every year to the regulatory bodies, okay, this PMS data. And in QMS also you have this, which are interlinked with the regulations. Are you getting my point? Have you understood
Yes,
what
sir.
is? Yeah, I'll tell you a typical example like why the products. See, most of the products which are within your specifications, what you'll have a specification criteria, but still they fail. Okay, when they enter into the market and we start using them, or the end users start using them, they fail. You know why? No, they are good products with Pakka specifications, have good compliance with the QMS. But why they fail when you keep them in market?
Customer focus.
It's because of misuse. No, it won't be because of misuse. You think of it and tell me next class why these devices fail. Because next class, see, I want to tell you in advance. If time permits, I'll close clause 8 today, but I want to explain clause 8 in detail because it's linked to the regulatory also. And it is a very important thing, which gives a lot of feedback both to regulatory and quality on improving your product. Let's see how it happens. But in the next class, I have options. I'm looking at 3 options what to tell you. One is to go with internal auditor training because we will be completing ISO 13485 because internal audit training is totally linked with 13485. Okay, so you can become internal auditors after the training session where I'll conduct an exam and certify you, and I'll provide a certificate for you as a certified competent internal auditor. And the second thing which I'm also in a ambiguity or dilemma is, to discuss on risk management. Okay, that's ISO 14971, which is very, very important both in quality and regulatory. Okay, and it will be very interesting. Like I like this risk management analysis, risk management. It's and secondly, I'm saying it's not that because I like it, I want to tell it. Even I like internal training, internal auditing, all that stuff. And the third is, can we take up some regulatory topic? Because all 6, 7 sessions we are discussing on QMS. Why can't we pick up some regulatory topic or something like EU MDR or 510K, whatever you like, some regulatory topic. Okay, we have 3 options. One is to continue with internal auditor training and close that. So 13485 is closed, internal audit training is closed. Or should we go with risk management 14971 ISO? Or should we dive or look into discussing some regulatory topic like IMDR or EUMDR or 510K? Hopefully, I thought today I can close this clause 8, but I am going very in depth on clause 7. I know clause 7 is very, very important. Clause 8 is more important. If you ask somebody, everyone say all clauses are important, but all are important. But at some point, when I ask how you grade the clause on the importance, I know I grade clause 8 important than clause 7. And rest of the clause, I'm really not interested. The documentation, management, product realization. Of course, in clause 7, I'm talking on production, but I never worked in production. I was head of QA, so I understand production a lot. Oh, of course, clause 8 is very important. So as we proceed, first let's complete and we'll take a call whether of the 3 options, which one we'll pick up. Okay, I think if we can go with internal auditor training, maybe once you complete this internal auditor training, straight away I can hand over you the certification, internal audit certificate, so that we can keep you in a CV much early, because we have a lot of topics to discuss. Okay, leave it. Okay, I'll tell you the reason why some of the products go or pass in our QC and other tests, why they fail in the patient use or in the market. It's not because of misuse. There is a lot of logic in that. Okay, and as I mentioned, planning is very important. Okay, whatever you do, planning is important. In your personal life also, you need to do planning. Don't do anything without planning. So documented plan you need to have, and the most important thing is it has to be documented. Planning must result in documented output. Okay, whether it's design or production, you will have an output. And you need to specify what is my output. Like I know I need 500 units, 500 devices this shift. If my rejection is 5%, how many I should produce? So you need to have little add bit of maths and calculations. What are your outputs? Your quality plan, project plan, whatever I said, no, for everything you'll have a plan. Okay, including design and development, we call it as design and development planning, which comes under clause 7.3. Okay, and for them, as I told you, you will have records. Production, you will have production records, QC records. Okay, you also have raw material verification records. Okay, all sorts of documents will have, including okay, your process records, process parameters records built on the machine. Okay, and product specific quality plan. For this, what we generally do is, okay, it is a document listing all specific procedures, forms, records, training needed per single year. This is commonly what we do. Okay, to have a quality product, we have documents, SOPs, procedures, forms, records. We provide training to employees. Okay. But what we basically do is at a higher level. Have you heard of annual quality report? Sorry, annual product quality report. It's called APQR. Anybody heard of annual product quality report?
No, sir.
Okay, annual product quality report is like in a year you produce, it could be a calendar year or a financial year from April to March, or it could be from January to December. Like how many devices you produce. Okay, you may be producing a lot of devices, 10 to 10, 30 or 10 to 15 products, but you pick up one product, you look at how many you have produced, okay, whole of the year, and what are the tests you have done. It means include your QC reports, all the year, how much rejection has happened, what is the yield or productivity that happened throughout the year, okay, and what is your yearly trend showing. And you can maybe I'll discuss later, it's there in our discussion, what we call PPK, sorry, PCK, it's a performance quality report. Okay, how my system is performing or total production is performing based on your yields and rejections. Okay, the other is process capacity, how your process is proceeding. You need to validate that. Is my process good? If the process is good, what about my performance? Okay, there are little bit calculations which you need to do to arrive at some quantified data. Okay, you can't use it verbally and say my process is good or great or super. Okay, you need to, should be measurable and quantified. And also you need to add what you call Six Sigma. I think I told you what Six Sigma is. Total percentage yield of that year. Okay, at what sigma you are at 1 sigma, 2 sigma, 3 sigma, or 4. I know no company can reach 6 sigma. But at what sigma you are speaking, it gives, and when you prepare an annual product quality report and when you show it to the auditors, okay, it gives a very good impression to the auditor that you have, your documentation is very good, that every annually you're looking at what's happening with your processes, production, yields. Okay. Every year, I mean, that is called APQR, Annual Product Quality Report. This I have seen mainly in US. When I'm in US, I have seen companies doing this. It's better, I mean, it's nothing great doing. It's only collection of data and combining the data and arriving at some conclusions based on a 1 year data. Because it provides a lot of inputs which can be used in subsequent year, or they give some positive inputs or negative inputs. So that will be really helpful. What I'm saying is you can't depend upon individual batches to arrive at conclusions. Okay, it's not like you look at one sample and say, okay, this is fine. Okay, statistically, 1 or 2 samples, you can't arrive at conclusions. Okay, any experiment you do, why you pick up 6 samples or 10 samples to test your product? Why can't you test 1 product or 2 products and say like this passed the test or the sterility is fine? Why you have a definite sample number? Can somebody tell me? There will be a different sample size. Suppose you are testing raw material, the sample size will be different. You test. Suppose you are doing online QC, your sample size will be different. Finish QC, your sample size will be different. If you are doing test sterilization, the sample size will be different. If you are doing validation, the sample size will be different. So you do different validations. When you are doing stability studies, accelerated or real time, there will be different sample size. Suppose you are doing clinical trials or clinical evaluation, or if you are doing a PMS, your sample size will be very different. Who is dictating the sample size? Are there any standards, or you provide your sample size based on your logic? Somebody answer this. It's a tough question. No, you people would have worked somewhere and you have tested some samples, but you need to have a very defined number of sample sizes. I can't test 1, 2, 3 and say it passed. Or should I test more? Should I test 100? Or should I test 30 or just 10 or 5? Who decides all this? Is there any logic in fixing the sample size? Okay.
Sir, there is one ISO which guides us. I cannot recall the number of that, but there is one ISO which guides us for the sample requirement from each batch.
No, it actually, yeah, there are few standards which talk of sample size, but it's okay, you can take guidance from that, but mostly sample size varies, okay, between what is the purpose of you doing that particular activity. If you are doing validation, okay, the purpose of doing validation, the intention or the objective of doing validation, why you are doing it. Sterilization validation, what is the objective? Packing validation or transport, there are a lot of validation. And clinical also, we call clinical trials also comes under validation. We call it clinical validation for the intended use. Okay, actually, clinical validation is more close to the all validation because it's really talking of the intended use in the human subjects, I mean, patients. But again, we need to understand what is the objective of this test. Okay. What is the variations in that test? How many parameters we are checking in the test? Okay. And when will we, is it statistically we are comparing with other, or it is only what we call one tail or one arm test? If it is a two tail, we call it in t-test. T-test is student t-test, where there's a basic test which we would have studied during our education. Okay, it's a paid t-test, or you have two comparisons. I'm comparing two things, or it's only one thing. If you're comparing with two things, you have your own accepted test criteria, and one is the output from the samples you have tested. So you are comparing them. It's a paired t-test, or only you are not comparing with anything. Okay. And if you are comparing, why you are comparing? What is the logic in comparing? Okay. And statistically, what you want to prove there? What is the probability? What you are looking at? What is the power of study? How strong you want this power, that particular validation to be strong? And I told you some time back, I don't know to whom I told you or to your back. Any data, when you don't use, okay, a lot of data you have done calculation, but any data which is not done statistically, okay, is an invalid data as per science. Okay, any data has to be concluded statistically. If you conclude a data statistically, no one in the world can question you, because you are applying statistics. Statistics is common anywhere in the world. It's not that for India there will be one, in US there will be one. Okay, statistics is very common. Maybe in due course I'll tell you 1, 2 methods of statistics. I can't discuss all the statistics, but very commonly used statistics. Any data requests, I mean, when you conclude the data with statistics, even the auditor can't question it. Okay. And the second most important thing is, just because you know statistics, okay, don't apply statistics everywhere you want. Okay, there will be some data or some area where you can apply statistics for a very pragmatic conclusion. Okay, so that it is scientifically valid. But don't apply statistics where it is not necessary. Okay. Yeah, I'll tell you on that, on the sample size, as a discussion in the planning, we'll also have verification and validation. You know the difference. I think we discussed on what is verification and validation. What is verification?
Process input
Akansha?
equal to process output.
Yeah, that's good. What is validation?
The device or what kind of the device we are making, which are satisfy the intended use or not.
Satisfies the intended use. Suppose I am doing sterilization validation. Okay. What is the intended use? What I am looking at sterilization validation, it is
The
also
product
validation.
should be sterile. So it's to validate the process, like the product has been steriled or not, bioburden has been reduced or not successfully.
Yeah, that's good answer. So you need to define, there will be a lot of validation. I'm not talking just at the, as it met the intended use. Basically, we look at intended use as a product performance at the end, but there will be a lot of intended uses based on the validations you are applying. Okay. Suppose I'm doing sterilization, packing validation, I'm doing other validations. Okay, I'm using validation. So you need to define validation very correctly based on what you are doing. Okay. And during production planning, you'll have acceptance criteria. You should be ready with what is, don't go like dumb and deaf to production without having acceptance criteria. I know nobody will do it, but there are some companies, because if they go into I mean without it's applicable for mainly class 1 devices. I'm not talking about high risk devices. Class 1 devices, there won't be any criteria of like just you manufacture some cotton, cut it, pack it, and throw it. Okay, but still for that also you need to go with some acceptance criteria, like what is the weight of the cotton which I am packing? Are there any fibers coming out? What is what is the shape I am packing? So there should be some quantified one, which there are some which you can't quantify. Okay, there are qualitative parameters. Okay, then you need to define all them. Okay, and you should have a record provision for that. You call it as device master record or batch manufacturing record. Okay, acceptance criteria could be your specifications, engineering drawings. Okay, verification, you have protocols. Mainly for verification, validation and verification, you have plans. Okay, what we call validation plan or verification plan. Then you will have protocols, or you can call procedure. Okay, then you will generate the report. Then you'll do the data analysis. Then you do the conclusion, or you finally report it. So you need to follow a sequential of procedures. When you do a validation, plan it, have a procedure or protocol for it, do your study, record the results. Okay, do analysis of your results as per the required standards. And importantly, what I'm trying to say is like every test which you do, okay, whatever tests you do in medical devices or any other, even in pharmas, there will be a standard available for you. Okay, it could be ISO standard, IEC standard, pharmacopoeia, or ASTM standards. Okay, that ASTM is American. Basically, we use it for a lot of metals and electricals, like American standard for testing of material, that is ASTM, IEC for electrical, and so for anything you have standard. So even for sterilization, packing, simple things like labeling, you have a standard. So the important thing is whenever you do that test, okay, or write a procedure, you involve that standard or give the reference of that standard in your procedures. One thing, and you also refer to the standards and see that your procedure is as per the standard. Okay, don't write SOPs on your own. Suppose you may ask me, there is no standard for that particular test. What should I do? See, there is an option of writing your own procedure when there is no standard as available, but you need to provide justification for writing your own standard or own procedure, not standard. You can't write standards. Own procedures when there is no standard available, and provide justification for that. Okay, that it is, what you call both as a standard, as a test procedure, or it could be a work instruction. It is apt for testing that, doing that particular test, providing the acceptance criteria. Okay, and also providing in case, it should be totally full-fledged, like sample size, procedure, what test you do. It includes calibration of some, see that all equipments are calibrated. At end of the day, you need to give justification that this is the standard procedure for my company. Okay, don't say that this procedure is applicable to everybody. For my organization, this is a set standard procedure. We validated this. Okay, once you validate your procedure, doing some experimentation, then you say this is a validated procedure for testing my for this particular test, and these are the acceptance criteria. Okay, you have that liberty to do it. Just 1 second.